guys. As you may know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to talk to you guys about something that may have been on our minds here and there, which is what is a form of mental health treatment that is convenient and accessible to me as a college student? Being a college student nowadays is extremely hard. We have to balance work, school, volunteer work, extracurriculars, sleep, exercise, you name it, we have to handle it. And unfortunately, this is creating a huge problem when it comes to the mental health of college students. Within the last year, 50% of UC Davis undergraduate students reported feeling depressed, and 70% reported feeling extremely sad or even hopeless. Sadly, these rates are not uncommon considering how prevalent mental health disorders are becoming among the college student population. Even more tragic is that 80 to 90% of college students who completed suicide had no contact with their on-campus counseling resources. So knowing this, we must ask ourselves, what can we do to better improve the mental health of students like you and me? The answer is something you may already be familiar with: online therapy. Online therapy is a very broad term. It can refer to video conferencing, instant messaging with a therapist, or a structured online program, such as Brave. Brave is a program that was designed in Australia for children and adolescents suffering from various anxiety disorders. These included generalized anxiety disorders, social phobias, social anxiety, so on and so forth. And they found that after children and adolescents completed this study, they saw a drastic reduction in their anxiety symptoms, comparable to that of clinical therapy, meaning therapy that you go in person to and see a therapist, face to face. This is extremely important to know because 16% of UC Davis students reported feeling anxious within the last year and even receiving treatment for this. Online therapy is also very effective in treating depression. In one study, they found that when they included a peer support networking option, such as an online chat group, to help further motivate participants, the reduction in depression rates was even more considerable. It's important to know this because depression can be extremely difficult to manage on your own, so knowing that online therapy is an option for you is amazing to know. So knowing this, you may be wondering, how else is online therapy safe and effective for me? Well, it actually is just as great as clinical therapy is in establishing strong relationships with a therapist. In another study, they found that participants, especially adolescents, formed very strong relationships with their therapists, even when it all took place online. So that means you don't have to be face-to-face with a therapist in order to gain that same benefit, forming a close and personal relationship with the counselor. So now you may be wondering, okay, this is all great, but what kind of therapy should I be looking for? There's lots of different kinds, and you're absolutely right. Therapy is just this huge term, but it can include positive psychology, psychodynamic therapy, marriage and family therapy, cognitive, problem solving, so on and so forth. So it's important to know which one is the right one. Well, when it comes to online therapy, it looks like cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, is the way to go. It involves changing negative thought patterns about yourself, about others, the general world. So, for example, someone who is suffering from negative self-talk may be thinking to themselves when they fail an exam, I am stupid. I am responsible for my failure. But CBT helps to change that so that maybe you reappraise the situation and view it more as, well, I know I'm smart, I just didn't study as hard this time, or I just didn't feel as motivated this time, but I know I can do better next time. So it works to change those negative thought patterns about yourself into more constructive ones. So CBT is the way to go. However, which way is not the way to go? That would be problem-solving therapy. Problem-solving therapy involves a huge amount of autonomy. It puts a lot of the work on the individual itself. Basically, problem-solving therapy expects the individual to create these long-term goals and specific plans to reach those goals, which sounds great, but is very difficult if you are suffering from depression or anxiety, where lack of motivation, inability to concentrate, and difficulties making decisions are all very common symptoms of those disorders. And it is even more difficult to do this online because you're all by yourself. You have contact with a therapist through online communication, but it's hard to keep yourself accountable when your progress primarily depends on you and how often you're logging in and keeping up with your online appointments and completing these structured programs. So CBT is great, PST not so great. So Around this time, I think it's a good idea for me to do a little recap just to make sure you guys are all good to go. So, number one, online therapy is effective in treating anxiety and depression in young adults. Number two, online therapy is just as effective as clinical therapy in establishing strong relationships between patients and their therapists. Number three, choose programs that are based on CBT, not PST. That is the way to go. Alright, so now that I've got all this information out there, you're like, hey, sounds great, but how am I, a broke college student, supposed to afford any of this? And that's a great question. Well, good news for you, UC Davis offers free online therapy to every student enrolled in the university. That's right, you just need to be an enrolled student and you're eligible for free online therapy. You just have to go to the website. I'll include a link right here as well as in the description below. Basically, you'll just need to create a free account through Live Health Online. So this is a separate program, not directly UC Davis itself, so you won't be talking to UC Davis counselors, which may or not be helpful considering your own experiences with UC Davis counseling services. So from there, you'll need to enter Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield as the type of insurance you have. You'll also need to list your membership ID number, which can be found on your insurance card, or if you have the Anthem Blue Cross app on your phone, you can check for your membership ID number on the phone itself, on the app itself. And then lastly, you'll need to list yourself as a primary subscriber because it'll ask, are you a primary or secondary subscriber, and just put primary. And there you go, that's all you need to do. And you are set. You can make your appointments based on the date and time or your therapist of your choice. They have a list of therapists with a short bio next to each one along with a picture so you can kind of get an idea of who you would connect best with. You also can make psychiatry appointments and regular medical appointments online too for non-emergencies. So this is a great tool to use, even if you don't plan to use it for online therapy. If you just don't have time to go in person to the Student Health and Wellness Center, then there you go. So I really hope this video was informative for you. I know how hard it is to take care of yourself as a UC Davis student, but options are available. And this one is something that I really hope you guys decide to check out, especially in celebration of Mental Health Awareness Month and every month of the year. All right, well, take care of yourself, Aggies, and thank you so much for tuning in.